Hey everybody, it's David Pingree here with RacerX. We're out here at Pala Raceway today to ride the 2017 KTM 350 and 450. And we've got Ivan Tedesco that joined us to help run through these couple of bikes with us. We're going to focus on the air fork. That's the biggest change to this model from last year. Only one valve in this thing, which makes it much simpler to use. Everybody that's ridden with this, and I rode a little bit with it on the factory edition bikes, seems to be a much better setup than a lot of the air forks, and better than what they had previously. So we're anxious to really try to get a good setting for you today, give you some ideas on where to start with that. There's also some other changes to this bike, including the top triple clamp, which is now solid. The rear brake pedal's a little bit longer. There's some different maps. It's got traction control. So anyway, a lot of little changes that really refine these bikes, and we're going to run through them, give you some feedback on those, and really try to help you get a good setting for that fork. Let's go get on the track and shake these things down. All right, we got some time on the track on the 350 and 450. I spent my time on the 350. We let Ivan jump on the 450 and get a bunch of laps in, and kind of got some starting points for sag. This isn't a dialed in video, but because the bike isn't really all new, but it does have a new fork, so we want to give you some general setting starting points. Recommended sag for these bikes is 106. Again, that's going to vary a little bit depending on where you like the back end of your bike to be. You can go up or down a millimeter and probably find that sweet spot. On the 350, the PSI for the fork is 153. It's the recommended setting. And on the 450, it's 156. That's in PSI. Clickers are going to be 12 and 12 on the fork for compression rebound, and the shock's going to be 15 to 15, and all the way in on the high speed and out 2 turns. That's your standard setup. And we'll let Ivan talk about the 450, but for me on that 350, I was really impressed that I didn't have to make a lot of changes. I was anticipating definitely doing a pressure change on the fork, definitely having to adjust compression with that, and kind of fighting to get it to feel right. I'm not an air fork fan. I've really not made any, pulled any punches on that. I don't care for them. I'm a spring fork guy. But I'll tell you, this is hands down the best spring fork I've ever ridden with. In fact, if you had gone out there and told me it was a spring fork, I would have probably believed you. It worked that well. And literally, I put in the 153 that was recommended, and we didn't touch the pressure. At one point, I went a couple clicks out on the compression just to see what it would do, and I ended up going back to the stock setting. So I was really impressed with the way the bike came really squared away. I mean, at least for me, I didn't feel like I needed to make a lot of changes. I slowed my rebound down front and rear 2 clicks, and I went out a half a turn on my high speed. Those are the only changes I made all day long. And that was just felt like it was returning a little bit quick on me, so I just slowed that down and got the back to sag a little bit more. I like my bikes to kind of squat that was it. I was happy. So as far as the 450, you know, you and I chatted a little bit, but what was your thoughts on that suspension set?
I mean, real similar to what you were saying. I didn't make too many changes. I was a little stiffer on the fork and shock, on the high speed on the shock, mainly because when I was deep in the throttle, I was getting a little bit low in the rear, and then I was losing traction on the front. But I stiffened both up, and the bike feels super balanced. And like you said with the air fork, I've been on air forks since they came out, and this is definitely one of the best ones I've been on, and it doesn't seem finicky. I didn't change one air pressure and kind of just rode it and learned it and felt good.
And that's not common for air forks. I mean, at least everything I've found is you're constantly going, let's try this, let me go down a little bit.
I know on my Suzuki, I mean, I got the Showa air forks, and I'm changing them every day. You know, I'll go out my first session, and usually I could be a little better here, it could be a little better there, and I'm kind of chasing it all day, but I mean, today I didn't.
Yeah. So kudos to KTM for developing a really good air fork. As far as the shock, chassis, everything else, for me, our track was really tricky today. We got some rain, and the track was rutted, super rough. It was actually tough to just jump in when it was that rough. We got here late and took a little getting used to, but the bike worked really well. I didn't have any issues. Once I slowed my rebound down, at times I would get into a rut kind of deep, and it would return on me and kind of spit me up. But once I slowed down the rebound, the bike calmed down, and I was able to kind of work lines, get through bumps, no problems. What about the 450?
Yeah, I mean, that was my first time riding the new generation chassis. The last time I rode a KTM was 2014, so I was real impressed with the whole bike, especially the motor. I haven't been on a KTM in a while. They got definitely a strong motor, and not only the power, it's the character of it. You know, it's real usable. You could ride it kind of however you want.
Yeah. That 450's got a lot of torque.
Oh yeah, lots of torque, and you could ride it in the low RPM and still go, you know, get to where you need to go. You don't have to rev it, and that's what I like with a 450, to be able to ride it fast but calm, if that makes sense.
Yeah, if you can keep the RPMs low, doesn't bind up the chassis, lets the thing work as you get, especially on a bump.
Yeah, like today, it was rutted. I mean, for SoCal, this was a unique condition for sure.
Yeah. A couple other little changes they made. The rear brake pedal's a little longer. I didn't notice it. I never had a problem with it before. Did you notice anything on yours?
I didn't, no, I did not.
So it's a subtle change. Some people were saying it felt too short, so they've addressed it. The triple clamp is all solid. I mean, again, that goes hand in hand, I think, with the way this fork works and this generation of fork, and it's great. MX3S tires, absolutely no complaints there. The mapping and the traction control is new, so 2 different maps. I ended up going back and forth, and to be honest, at times I like the snap of the aggressive map, but I found myself making less mistakes with the stock map. So I think a lot of it's just personal preference where you're at. It was so tacky today. It's like I kind of like that snap of the aggressive one, but then I'd find myself kind of riding it too aggressively.
Depending on what track you're at. I think it's nice to have on the handlebars, though, if you need it.
And you like the aggressive one on the 450?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I don't mind it at all.
So play with those. Sometimes those are hard to tell, but this one, it's noticeable. The maps are different enough you can get a feel for it. There's also traction control, which today, when it's this tacky and sticky, you're not going to probably feel. I didn't feel it. I clicked it on for a minute and didn't feel like much to me, but this will actually retard when it's based off the flywheel, so when the thing spins up real quick, it'll chop down some of the power and help you to hook back up. I got hard pack, slick, tree roots in the woods, slimy mud, those type of conditions. Might be really neat to play with that. So that's as simple as pushing the button. I mean, you really need to get your dealer to show you how to work through this thing, but as long as you're at an idle, you can even be rolling on the track. Just click map and it'll bounce back and forth between 1 and 2. If you want traction control, you literally just hit traction control. And then if you're on the start line, you want to do the launch control, you hold down map and traction control together. That'll get you a little blinking light up here, and you know that the hole shot is engaged, the little hole shot device. So a lot of cool technology coming out with these, and you just got to play with it and get comfortable with it, is bottom line. What else? They got some different brake pad material. Again, I didn't really notice. The brakes felt good to me. I guess in the past, the rears were a little grabby. So this pad is meant to have a little bit more of a smooth feel to it. Felt good to me. Did you notice anything there?
Yeah, nothing. I didn't ride the old one, so I couldn't tell you.
Some of the changes are real, just little details, but they do a nice job. One thing that I found was these stock handlebars are really wide. Kind of felt like a Texas Longhorn to me, trying to hold on. Good bars, good grips, just they made them really wide. It's like a broom handle.
It is a little wide for my small guys like us, I guess.
Yeah, maybe big dudes, but that's an easy fix, you know, pull the grips off, chop an inch off each side or half inch or whatever and find a width you like. Good bars though. All in all, my impression of the 350, I'm really, really impressed with how ready to go it is. You could literally just show up and race this thing in stock form. Get the, like I said, we didn't make a lot of changes today, and I got really comfortable on the bike. So that's difficult. You can't say that about a lot of bikes.
No, you really can't. I think KTM's done a good job at that. They're racing machines, and basically you could go race it right out of the box.
Yeah, that's their slogan, ready to race, and it seems like they've really hit the nail on the head with these bikes, the 2017 models. Check them out. They've been in dealerships for a bit now. I want to thank Ivan for coming out. Appreciate it, bud. Good seeing you again. Thanks for watching.